I said yesterday when we talked about this that other studios were estimating that Warner Brothers gave a fake number over the weekend to make it seem a little bit better, that it was in all likelihood around 38 million. Sure enough, the final tally for Joker 2's opening weekend, 37.8 million. For those of you keeping track at home, that is less than the opening weekend of Morbius.
Woo!
Considered by most to be one of the biggest memes in terms of box office failures for comic book movies. It is worse than Morbius for Warner Brothers right now. And unfortunately, they spent a lot more on Joker 2 than Sony did making Morbius. And a couple things are starting to kind of come together. I saw this. Some of these I would consider accurate. Some of them I would not. But listen to some of the stuff that is now coming out about the Joker 2. The idea came to Joaquin Phoenix in a dream. Contemplated putting on a Broadway show before committing to making a movie. That is something that we had heard multiple times, that they potentially wanted to do this as a play and like put it on Broadway or something like that. Not the way that Warner Brothers wanted this to go. Todd Phillips had free reign with Warner Brothers, wanting him to do his thing, and the film had no test screenings. Lady Gaga signed before the script was finished. New DC boss James Gunn had zero involvement. Gave notes, but Todd Phillips didn't use them. Now this is starting to sound like James Gunn very much trying to distance himself
control.
From the movie. This is totally a damage control thing. That's these things that are coming out right now. You're right.
Yeah. No, I mean that's James Gunn essentially treating Joker like Zack Snyder treated Geeks and Gamers. Man, that was just like, I am not affiliated with the Joker at all. That's what he's doing, 100%.
And it probably is true, right? When James Gunn was hired on, there was a couple projects that remained, including Joker 2, including the Batman 2, things like this that James Gunn does not have control of. So it probably is true, but I'm sure they also definitely want that info out there.
Mm-hmm.
Film had a huge budget, $200 million, including a $20 million salary for Joaquin Phoenix and $12 million for Lady Gaga. I don't know if it was you or Jay who I was talking about. That's kind of what I estimated it was. Because there's no reason this movie cost $200 million. And even signing people like Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga, there's no way that makes up that difference. There's no excuse for it to be $200 million when the first one was $55 million at all. And those are big salaries, but not enough to make up the $150 million gap between the first and second one. Musical aspect was largely downplayed in marketing, with director Todd Phillips at first insisting it wasn't one. Having seen the movie, I wouldn't define it as a musical. There's a fuck ton of music in it, many of which is distracting and strange and throws the entire pace of the movie off, but I wouldn't define it as a musical. It's a fucking movie with 14 karaoke breaks in it that have very little to do with the plot. Christopher Nolan. You got to tell me how you feel about this one, Jeremy. The details that are coming out. Christopher Nolan reportedly changed the ending of the first movie because it ended with Phoenix Joker carving a smile. There was no resistance for the sequel, with Nolan leaving Warner Brothers. What do you think about that?
That's the first I've heard of that. That's the first I've heard of this. So read that one more time for me. Christopher Nolan changed the ending of the first movie.
That's what they claim, that Christopher Nolan changed the ending of the first one because it ended, instead of him painting the blood on his face, it ended with him carving into his cheeks.
That sounds, I mean, people don't understand just how powerful Nolan is. I don't think people don't understand this dude. I remember the Lego Batman movie. They had to get Nolan to sign off on the Lego Batman movie, and that was reported out there. I believe it. I absolutely believe it. I believe he gets involved with a lot of stuff that he wants to get involved in. So yes, Nolan is the most powerful person in Hollywood. There's not a single person that tells him what to do, and he gets involved with whatever he wants to get involved in. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. He's responsible for Man of Steel too. Shitty fucking Superman movie. That's all Nolan. The reason that movie got made was because of Christopher Nolan. He brought Zack Snyder in. He was involved with Henry Cavill's casting. People don't know this, but this is true.
Todd Phillips was secluded on a ranch during opening weekend. Film was panned by fans and critics, currently holding 33% score, 31% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think the audience score did dip down to 30. I think that's the last I saw it at was 30, but maybe it is back up to 31%. Cinema score was a D, the lowest ever for a comic book film. Holy shit.
Whew.
Domestically opened with 37.8, lower than comic book movies like Morbius and the Marvels. Now, this is where I kind of disagree with it a little bit. Needs 450 million globally to break even. That's if you're going by kind of the very archaic 2.5 times the budget, which is pretty much proven to been wrong in most ways. Most people at this point in time, with the amount they're spending marketing these movies and the cut that these studios are getting, estimate that it needs more than that. My guess would be somewhere in the 550 to $600 million range to break even. At a very minimum, fucking 500 at the very minimum. And I just don't think it's going to reach either of these. May lose the studio over $150 million. Warner Brothers Discovery is already over $40 billion in debt. $40 billion.
This is the fallout from this movie right now, like it's hitting another level. I mean, what were the estimates we got the other day before the actuals? It was like 40s. They wanted to say it was going to do like 40 million opening weekend. They were just trying to make people think it was doing a little better to try to push a few more people there. Then the actuals comes in and it's actually more disastrous than you thought. And again, that was them rolling of the dice, probably. Hopefully they could get a little more support and get word of mouth. But this thing, man, this thing is not going to make a profit. You shared your numbers versus the numbers they're trying to put out there. I think they're trying to lower the bar as well for their break-even point. But Joker is going to go down as one of the great disasters, especially all the success that you have from the first movie, all the goodwill you have from the first movie. And this is the definition of a cash grab. And I don't like when people label things cash grabs because by definition, everything's a fucking cash grab. This fucking stream's a cash grab. All right. Like everything is a cash grab in business. So
yeah, you're doing something and expecting to getting money back.
Right.
It doesn't surprise anyone that Warner Brothers would want to do a Joker 2 after the success of the first Joker because they want more money.
Right.
Ultimately, though, those things can backfire. And that has backfired in a major way for them. They thought it would be easy money that people would just show up. And after a couple people went and gave their thoughts, when the critics are this aligned with the audience, that's always going to be a red flag to everybody. And it's a bad follow-up. It just is. It's something that tries to undermine and subvert and revert everything that happened in the first one and just get back to the beginning where Arthur Fleck is Arthur Fleck. And for anybody that enjoyed the first one, and the media and a lot of these fucking weirdos and freaks and losers and degenerates on Twitter are trying to pretend like a vast amount of people, all these angry white men out there, they saw the Joker as a hero and they're mad that they destroyed him. No, that's not what it's about. Everyone sees Joker as a fucking warning sign of what can happen to people with fucking mental illness, not as a fucking hero.
That's it.
But the point is you're taking a character, you're doing something, and the second movie is destroying that thing. And that's where people have a problem with it.
Yeah. And the fallout will continue. And I guess we're just going to have to see how bad this is going to get. James Gunn distancing himself. That's an immediately, that just shows you how bad that they realize how bad this thing is right now. They realize just how bad this is. And they want nothing. He wants nothing to do with it. They need to get their house in order, and the first line of business is distancing yourself from the Joker movie if you're tied to DC in any way, shape, or form. So good on them for that. Man, what a fucking shit show this is.
Yeah, because I said yesterday that rival studios had Joker pegged. They had estimated around 38 million. The rival studios turned out to be right, and Warner Brothers was definitely trying to put out 40 million because it sounds better than 39.
Mm-hmm.
And because most people are only going to see that first headline, not the one that comes a little bit later on. So,
yep. That's how it goes.
Rough for them. Arthur was never the Joker. The guy in the end is the Joker. Yeah, for anybody that's seen the movie, no shit. And also Todd Phillips has said for 5 years that Arthur isn't the Joker as we're familiar with him. He's not going to end up being the Joker who is the villainous opponent to Batman. Todd Phillips said that 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not a surprise. That shouldn't be, or at least it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone that's paid any amount of attention.